Hi everyone. So this is going to be the second progress report for Winter Fantasy. It's been another week since the last progress report. In that week I practiced for, let's see, 50-50, 45-50. So let's say around 200 minutes. A little over 3 hours. Just under 3.5 hours of practicing. Not counting yesterday's practice because we kind of moved into the next step. So yeah, we did 4 days of practicing for 50 minutes, and we kind of just went through the piece again in small chunks, and this is where I make all my artistic decisions on what I want the piece to sound like. Interpreting what is on the page. So basically the first time through we looked at note heads and stems and flags. This time through we're looking at everything else: the articulation, the dynamics, the expression markings, the tempo markings, all that other stuff. Yeah, so a lot of this week's practicing was more mentally focused than physically focused. What I mean by that is a lot of it was going through the process and making a lot of decisions. The technical stuff, most of it is still there. The first time I played through it, when I put everything together, my brain was kind of getting in the way. What I mean by that is I was making mistakes, but not so much because my finger didn't know what they were doing, but more of my brain wasn't sure what was coming up, or my brain was a little bit on the slow side and was lagging behind my fingers. So yeah. So that's what I was working on, just the mental side of practicing. And I think that's something that doesn't get talked about a lot, the mental side of practicing. Not only when you're making artistic choices, but also when you're practicing technique and developing your technique and just learning the notes. It's very important to be mentally engaged in that process. It will help you learn much faster than just raw bashing your head against the wall, playing the same lick over and over and over. Obviously that will eventually get you what you need, but if your brain is more engaged, you're thinking about what you're doing, you're analyzing your mistakes, that will get you there faster. So yeah, I think the mental part of practicing is an important topic that doesn't get covered enough. If you have any questions about that, feel free to reach out. I can elaborate more. I don't want to make this video too long. So with that, chunking up the whole thing and going through and making all these decisions, the mental part of practicing comes in as well. And then there's a lot of thinking involved. We kind of get a deep dive into the thought process behind all my decisions in the latest practice videos. What else can I say? So a lot of it is making subtle and noticeable differences between seemingly the same expression markings. So sometimes there are things that are very similar, like, sorry, I don't have my music up in front of me, but stuff like calmly at the beginning, and then at the end you have, let's see, where is it? So you have tenderly on the second page versus calmly in the beginning. How we differentiate between that, just making the smallest differences, and then just paying attention to the smallest details. For example, dynamics. There's one section where it was piano followed by pianissimo and then a pianissimo. Just what we do about that, and then a lot of phrasing. How we approach different phrases, where the phrases are, how do we let that come across. Yeah, so all these decisions related to artistic choices, we kind of go into a lot here in the last couple of days. And then so I finished all of that. Took me, like I said, 4 days. just going through the piece again. And during that process, I also took the opportunity to polish up some of the, not polish I wouldn't say, but just to reinforce some of the finger stuff that we weren't quite getting the first time through. So for example, bar 33 was one I often had trouble with on the first time through, and also that section around 84, 85. So I took that opportunity to reinforce some of the technical stuff, and that's basically what I spent the last half of 4 days, last 4 days doing. And then now we're moving kind of into the final step of preparing for the performance, which is kind of just polish everything up. So over the next week, I'll be polishing up everything and thinking of this piece in a more macro scale, and looking at it as a whole and just nailing those transitions. That was the other thing that I wasn't quite getting in the second run through, was the transitions. Since I'm still doing everything in chunks, sometimes the transitions are not very smooth. Like I said, the brain was sometimes forgetting what was coming up next, and then I end up lagging behind my fingers, and it takes me a couple bars to get into, to remember all the things that I've decided to do, and just in general, it takes a couple bars from one section to the next. So that's the next thing I'm going to be working on, just polishing everything, getting used to what section comes after what, and just navigating my way around this piece. So other than that, there's not too much more to say. I did learn quite a bit just from doing these videos, and especially in the last couple of days. Just sometimes a lot of things I do are automatic, and I don't realize what I'm doing until I've said it out loud in front of the videos and whatnot, and that's personally helped me understand my own practicing process much more. And once again, I did find myself spending more time than I thought I did on very specific things. For example, deciding what I'm doing with this one specific bar. I would play it a bunch of different ways, and then play them, and then do the same thing over and over until I've reached a decision. That process surprised me how long it actually took, instead of me just practicing and not really looking at a timer. But now that I'm kind of timing myself, I realize that stuff actually takes longer than I thought it did, and that's a pleasant surprise for me, I would say. But yeah, it's just very enlightening for my own self-discovery as well. So yeah, once again, if you're interested in looking at all the footage, or looking at something specific, or how I approach something specific, the practice videos are linked in the comment section. They're unlisted on my channel, just so that my channel doesn't get flooded by practice videos. Okay, so yeah, I'll see you in the next video, and this is the final stretch of learning this piece.